extra paper.
Okay, I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting to order. First thing up, adopting the agenda.
So moved.
So moved.
We don't have any public
There we go.
input to even ask about it.
Right. Unfinished business. Continue with February 3rd discussion on the financial plan. And I think we turn it over to you.
Your worship, through council.
Yeah.
So where we left off last time was, Ms. Hunter had supplied you with a pack of information.
Yep.
And we were going to let you digest it and come up with questions, and that is where we're at.
Well, okay. I guess we'll entertain questions. I actually have a few.
Okay.
Can I start?
Yeah.
It's kind of rude.
Kind of, but go ahead. We won't hold it against you.
My questions are more to the revenue side. Not, I tried to pick the bones of this, the expense side of this thing, and I think there's probably a few areas that we could trim here and there, but it's only bits and pieces. So there's, as I see it, there's two major areas, and within them, major areas of concern that I have. I haven't quite created a motion for this, but one is the recreation area, and it's not necessarily on the expense side, because it does take money to create what we're doing, recreationally speaking, but it's on the revenue side. Some years ago, the City Council had a policy regarding cost recovery. That policy was either abandoned or ignored, or something happened to it along the way. I'm not aware of where I'd find that. And so I haven't done enough of a detailed analysis to say what percentage of cost recovery would be acceptable. But I do have some ideas, and within that, there are three areas. And there are more, but three major areas. One is our pool. I have a huge concern that we're going to throw $30,000 at a pool that is potentially has to be replaced, or at least has major renovations down 5 to 10 years down the road, and we don't know exactly when that is. That's one. The second one is our curling rink. The size of the number of people using the curling rink, and the revenue generated out of that same group. And since the press is here, so they understand, I am a huge user of the pool. I have friends that are curlers. The third part of it is the ice rink too. And I play hockey and coach hockey, and I actually rent the ice for a team that I coach out of Nelson. And I bring them over here, and we practice on the Rossland ice. But the problem is, I think that our fees are too low, and I think what we've done is we've gone to the lowest common denominator and said it's too inexpensive, or too expensive for kids to be in sports. And so what we've done is we've reduced the price of our service so much so that we can encourage the lowest common denominator in terms of revenue, not in terms of people. Please take that the right way. That we're kind of missing an opportunity, because I think that there's enough people in town that would pay higher fees for the things that we have. My suggestion is that we use a fund that's administered by the city, but it's a private fund. It was donated by the Old Rossland Warriors Society. And from that, create some kind of a foundation, increase our fees based on a cost recovery model that is more acceptable to the city, and then have a means test for those children only. Let me couch that. Children, disabled, and retirees, or seniors that might need assistance in taking advantage of the recreational things that cost money in Rossland, specifically. And so that you could donate as a citizen through your estate, or if you want to just make a pure donation to this fund, and then it would help those people, that common denominator that I was talking about. And that we go to a more in the times approach to some of the costs that we have at the city. Now, I would mention that because we rent ice both in Rosslyn, the youth ice number is what, $65 or something like that, and in Nelson it's $125, $60 difference at the NDCC. In Vancouver it's $250 and upwards. So I think that there's an opportunity, more of an opportunity to have an impact on the revenue side in terms of these, and I'm just using the arena as an example, but our pool, our curling facility, and our ice arena. That's one area, and I would just encourage any questions or debate around that, because I have one other thing that I wanted to bring up.
No, I myself, I think we should maybe do a comparison study of the local communities of what the user fees costs are, and go from there to see how low we are, where we can make improvements on our fees. Our usage, you know, we're not going to get more usage from people. We got the same amount of people are going to be using these facilities. So I think we have to go with a comparison to other municipalities our size and in our area to see where we come out in that, see how we work out. I think Trail, didn't they lose the majority of their curlers when they upped their fees so high that most of the curlers didn't, they dropped out. I'm correct on that comment, aren't you, Aaron? They lost a lot.
They did lose some.
They lost a lot of their curlers in Trail. So if if all of a sudden we raise it too high, you know, we are going to be in trouble with the number of people using those facilities. So we have to try to find a balance between what we're going to do here. I think we should, if we can get a comparison cost, I think it'd be well worth it.
And I don't disagree with that. What I would say to that is that Rosslyn is not an island, and there are other places that you can choose to recreate, and other services that are available, except the issue around this is that the fees that are currently charged for these areas, if people are not willing to pay the fees, then what we're saying is the retirees or homeowners in this area that don't use the facility at all are paying for that person to do that. And if the numbers aren't substantial, or they're not increasing, or we're not fully utilizing our facilities, then I think we need to have a hard look at it. I mean, those are huge. Our expenses in those three areas are very big.
No, I agree.
And as a percentage of our overall intake from revenue from the city of Rosslyn, say around $4 million in taxes, in that general range. You know, what, Darren, maybe you could, what's the, if I don't have to go to it, what's the operating cost of the, just the arena?
The arena, about 260,000.
260,000 in operating cost.
I mean, the arena itself is 240. The curling rink is an additional, so yeah, so 260, 270.
So I'm not suggesting that we take our fees. I wouldn't. One of the issues around this is even all the communities around here are passionately supporting their ice arenas and their hockey facilities. We haven't necessarily done a good enough job, and it's not necessarily their fault, but it's input from us. Midway, for example, their rink is rented out to Spokane hockey teams to come up to practice, because it costs so much to play hockey in Spokane for the ice, that they'll come up to Midway at $60 or $50 an hour and rent it for 4 or 5 hours for Saturday and Sunday. So now we're subsidizing, Midway subsidizing people from so that they can have a rink, they're subsidizing people from Spokane to play hockey in their arena. So what I'm saying is that if there's I'm throwing out a number, it's just a possible number. If you had a 50% cost recovery model, you have to recover 50% of the cost, and it was really well communicated to the community. And we had this other means testing, way to, deliver to disadvantaged youth or, seniors and disabled folks that, to use our facilities. I think that could fill that one gap where we're talking about that common denominator, that can't afford it, rather than get the price down so cheap that everybody gets that cheap rate. I mean, if somebody's making, if a double income family in this town is making $180,000 a year, I don't think we should be subsidizing, them. I think they'd be happy to pay a higher rate, to be honest with you.
I agree with you. We actually got into this bit of this discussion last night.
Mhm.
And I think the conclusion was we probably won't have time to do it to impact this budget, to, you know, put in our cost recovery and to do anything dramatic that way, but that as soon as this sort of budget process and year-end process is over, that would be something that staff would look at and go back and look at those cost recoveries and get us the usage numbers on things like the pool and the arena and the curling rink, and then we can take a look at some of those things. And if you have the curling rink and not that many people are using it, and we've got some big expenses to fix it, maybe we're better off, you know, scrapping it, right? There could be, those kinds of decisions could have to be made, but they won't be made for this year's budget, which is kind of what you're talking about with the pool. Like, we set aside $30,000 for the pool, and that's there now for us to get this budget in. The future of the pool has yet to be discussed, the future of the arena, the future of any of it, but I think we came to that agreement last night that that's, I mean, you're being a little more specific, but I think it's a great idea, we should definitely do it. But I think for now, we need to keep moving through this, and get it done for this.
Okay, so if the three choices are, you know, run as now, status quo, I guess, closing the facilities, or just changing the model slightly, raising prices and come up with a cost recovery formula that we're okay with, sort of threshold, I guess. It just seems to me that this would be the way that we would go, as Councillor Fisher is mentioning. I definitely like the idea of that fund, and, you know, I think raising prices, that's something that could be done quickly. I don't think that's something that really needs to take time to do. You know, I mean, it would be nice to be able to do the regional survey, but if, I don't know, if there really wasn't time to do that, I think we have enough knowledge base just by, you know, calling maybe 2 phone calls or so and just coming up with a number. I think that's something that could be done quickly. And if this cost recovery threshold or whatever study or agreement or whatever it was that you're referring to there, if that exists still, I mean, then that's already there. We could just re-implement it, couldn't we? So I think this is stuff that could happen really quickly, and I really would like to see it for this budget if we could, or, you know.
There used to be a policy for the arena.
Okay.
Of just what, Councillor Fisher's talking about. It was a 45%, and like, it's, I don't know whether it was 45% recovery or 55% recovery. And it got taken out probably 6-7 years ago, maybe even longer. Because we just couldn't meet it, so rather than the council at the time changing it to reflect the times, it was just taken right out.
But there was that whole study when John Reed was here, he did a whole study about the arena.
About the usage and about the
usage and
yes, and
advertising
we were in line,
revenue.
we brought it up at that time to be in
Yeah.
line with, you know, the West Coonies.
Right.
Where
So
we're at now.
that work is done somewhere, we could look at that
It
again,
is.
because he had some good suggestions in there about increasing revenues in other ways, not just user fees, but also like the advertising and some other stuff that, of course, it takes somebody taking it on to do it, right?
We're slowly getting more and more advertising in the arena.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tough sell because you don't get the crowds there.
Yeah, of course.
Like they do in Trail, or like they do even in Beaver Valley, because they have the junior team.
Yeah.
So they get the crowds out, but it's slowly that's, you know, but that's
Yeah.
pretty
Not
smart.
much, yeah. Mhm.
So someone through you to ask, if somebody did want to advertise in these facilities, how would they find out how they could do so? How is that open to the public, that,
We've
you know, this can happen?
Turned Jim Fike, our arena, one of our arena operators, he's been going around to Tech, Ferreros, you know, Home Hardware, Maglio, so they're all getting on board. So we're actually going door to door trying to sell it rather than, and you know, nobody's gonna come to us. So, but if somebody wanted to come to us, then we have sheets at the recreation office that they fill out.
Okay.
And it has all the pricing and, you know, for the size and stuff like that.
How about as a plan of action then? It won't be in detail as we'd like it. I don't think we would be able to get to the ideal model recovery that you're suggesting. But how about if we look at, in terms of 2013, just the recreational areas, I'll work with Darren to see if we can get some user numbers to see what our actual recovery is. So at least it gives us a basis of numbers to look at, to discuss further. It won't be as detailed as what we really need it to be. That's gonna have to wait a little bit, but I could try and put something together for the next meeting on that, so at least we've got a topic to look at some numbers.
That'd be great. And to finish up on that topic, we went through the different user groups that have come to the city for funding in great detail and made recommendations through the committee of the whole to an eventual budget meeting that we're going to have as a council. And not looking at the core kind of recreational services that we have and the core recreational budgets that we have, I think is a little crazy in that maybe times are changing. You know, if you continue to lose participants in certain areas and you have facilities related to those certain areas, if you're not really looking at them with a critical eye, you're not serving the city of Rossland and the people that would use those things. I mean, I see this.
I agree.
They're paying for it.
I agree that these numbers should be easy to hand anyway.
I think they should be.
It's just, you know, the history that it's not there, so that's something we should, didn't we discuss that we wanted to put policy in place in terms of how much we want to subsidise the recreation programmes and kind of come up with a policy, and then we will need to report on it in terms of what it's costing us and how many people are using it and is it meeting that policy, so.
That was one of the ones that came forward.
Yeah, that's one.
That was,
We
and
did,
I
yeah.
just think that all I was doing is trying to expand it to look at what, if we're looking at cost recovery, are we also looking at, you know, what we're charging? And these aren't just programs, because the facilities rent for a certain amount, right? So
No, we have to cover.
it have to cover it all.
aspects,
Yeah, okay. I won't bring up my other one. I'll just
Why
open.
not?
I will.
Bring it up.
Oh, well, bring it up. It's just it's a bit of a, yeah, I think that we have to.
Can't wait.
This is a bomber. I think it's something that I think that currently in terms of a big expense that we don't control, that we get a requisition for, our fire service.
Yeah.
I think that we strongly this year need to have a hard look at what type of fire service the city of Rossland needs, what's acceptable, and then try to work with our partners, our regional partners, on saying that, you know, the city of Rossland's just like every municipality has budget issues, and that we think that a fire service fee to us based on a model that's similar to communities of our size, because I've actually had a quick look at some communities of our size, and generally speaking, with a fire chief and some volunteers, and this is generally, I don't have the specific numbers sitting in front of me, but somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000 is that fee for place. Creston is a perfect example, and the reason that I would use Creston as an example, or have a look at Creston, is because they're on an island. They're quite a distance from Cranbrook, and they're quite a distance from Trail. So in order to get additional fire support from other communities is difficult for them. You know, we're here, and we've got a volunteer fire department here, and we've got a regional fire service, and we've got other volunteer fire departments in Warfield and the Beaver Valley. And so if you end up with a big fire, you could have a lot of a lot of additional fire service here. And the only question that I have, if it would go back to staff, would be, communities of our size, what is a reasonable amount? And then try to have that discussion with our regional partners. Because right now that's a huge line item in our budget. And what is it? Is the requisitions?
Over 500,000.
Yeah.
Right, it's over 500,000, and it is, if you look at the tax base for the city of Rosslyn at 4 million, that's a huge percentage. The reason that I was looking at it so closely was that I'm trying to nickel and dime every little line item and expense and Bear Aware people and the Trail Society getting a knock and all this stuff, and then you've got $500,000 plus sitting there that you're not willing to even put on the table. I think that has to be on the table.
Well, there is the review that's been done, right, the regional review, and the presentation's coming up on the 18th, I think, at 4 o'clock down there. And also, I think the mayor is getting together a committee of people that know some things about it, so I think that is in progress, right? So, yeah.
I just wanted it to be on record.
It's
Yeah.
definitely a top concern.
Yeah.
Sorry for being
Councillor
late.
Spear?
Sorry. Yeah, and last night, when Councillor Wallace gave her report to council, you know, I said again, you know, what is the regional district doing to tighten when we have to tighten all the time, right? And I mean, she gave us a handout and almost everything is going up. A couple things are staying at 0%, but it's just this constant line, right, that's escalating. And there has to be a time when they have that discussion about that it's not realistic for communities like ours to be paying upwards of $600,000, between $500,000 and $600,000 for fire services. It's too much money.
It's closer to 6.
You know, we don't have the industrial base that they have in Trail. So I just sometimes wonder if they, you know, they really contemplate the situation that we're in with our tax base here, is that it's, you know, 90% residential, and you know, it's just over the top.
I brought it up just because, to me, it's obviously not something to take lightly, but at the same time, for communities of our size, there are plenty of examples in British Columbia that have fire service at a level where they're not paying that same dollar amount. And I'm sure there can be, at some point, the council here has to say, while we're acting in the best interest of citizens for safety reasons, it's just like insurance, I guess. I'm trying to think. You can insure yourself 6 ways from Sunday, but you're making a bet that something bad is going to happen, and the more money you put into it, the higher your bet is that something bad is going to happen, right? And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at the fire service at the moment, is that, you know, we've got a very, very robust fire service for this region, and while I think the guys down there are great, I think it's something that we might not be able to afford going forward. Those are my 2 things. Does anybody have anything to go over on the budget?
I have a bunch of little stuff. Bunch of little questions. Just one, just out of curiosity, it's on page 4 of our package. I'm just wondering why the swimming pool is put in with other expenses rather than with the other facilities. It's just a design question.
On the expense side or the revenue side?
It's on the expense. Well, it's on page 4, it's the general sheet, if you look down there.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious why it's there.
Under other expenses?
Yeah, under other expenses. Community support is there, and then the swimming pool is kind of, it just looks like a little outlier.
I think that might just be a case, oh yeah, I can see what you're saying. I think that's just a case of, because I'd taken the previous format, it was under community support at that time, because obviously it was society. Okay. So I just simply broke that out. So if you were looking at the community support, the history in 2009, it would have included it, so I've just simply broken it out. That's all.
Okay, that's great. And then another little one, and I think I asked this last year, and I don't remember the answer. On page 5, under the other non-operating revenues capital, there used to be a 3% inspection fee, And in 2009, we got $64,000 for it, and I'm just wondering why we don't get that anymore.
Yeah,
We being needing all the
I've asked
money
that
we can
question
get.
before, and I did look
Really?
into it, I haven't
Yeah.
managed to find an answer myself.
Yeah.
It's one invoice.
Oh, it's
to-
one invoice?
Yeah, it's one invoice to, I can't remember off the top of my head, so it seems to be something very specific.
Okay.
But I haven't managed to answer that one yet, so
Okay,
I'll
I
put
thought
that-
maybe it was something that we used to charge and that we
Nice.
don't charge anymore.
I can answer.
Okay.
It's an inspection fee for new development. So then we charge a 3% up to, I forget exactly what, up to 500,000, and after 500,000 of the value of the, development, then it goes to 2 and then 1, I think, after $1 million.
Okay.
So we haven't had any
big,
any
so
big
it's still
development.
there if we
It's
had
still there.
somebody come-
It
okay,
is,
all right,
yeah.
that makes sense.
And I believe 2009 would have been Caldera.
Okay. Okay. I'm just kind of gonna run through here, if anybody has any questions, we go, they can also jump in. I had one on page 6, which was the elections. Because we've got, I think what are we saying, we wanna spend $8,000 on elections. And I'm just wondering, like, we go in and vote, and there's like 1 million poll workers. It's like, could we cut some of that down and maybe save some money there? It was on that page, where is that? Oh, yeah, it's down near the bottom, governance and management, elections and referenda. And we're planning $8,100 for this upcoming election.
Your worship, city council,
Mhm.
each poll clerk costs us $250 for the 14-hour day.
Yeah, so can we have less clerks?
We'll try to, yeah, I thought about that last year, actually.
Yeah, you
like
go in,
But,
there's
I
a
mean,
ton of
it's a
people.
$250 savings.
Yeah, well, if you cut out half of them, it's maybe a $4,000 savings, right? I mean, can you, well, I guess some
No,
of
it's
it
$250 for the full day
per person.
per person, and
Right.
we usually have 8 workers.
8.
There were way more than 8 when I went in the Legion last year. I feel
Double
like there were
on
way more
every-
people sitting there
In
waiting
the
for you to.
Legion?
No, at the annex.
It
Annex.
was at the.
There was a provincial
You
election.
maybe have us mixed up with the provincial?
Oh, where did we voted at.
Annex.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
voted at Annex or voted at Miners Hall. I can't remember, I just remember
At
there were.
Annex.
It was the Annex.
There weren't very many? Okay, all right, well, if there aren't very many, I just was like,
Yeah.
$8,000, do we really need to spend that much?
8, sorry.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
staff too, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
that
maybe I
was the
was,
annex.
maybe I was.
Yeah, there weren't that many
Provincial
at the
one.
annex.
I think
But if you
that
could do 6,
that
why not?
estimate, the 8,100 is high.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll cost us that,
okay.
but,
Cost us $7,900 last
7,952
time.
last time.
So
Yeah.
close.
yeah, it's the printing of the ballots, it's the advertising,
Okay.
those things are expensive.
Okay.
Is there any
No, you have to-
regulations about how many people you have to have too?
Pardon?
Is there any regulations or?
No, you have to have a chief election officer, you have to have a deputy election officer, but, no. It's how long you want people to stand in line, if
Yeah.
if there is one, right?
I don't know, it just seems like it makes it cut somewhere. And another one on page 23, I'm looking, this is finance, salaries. So in 2003, we had budgeted for regular labor, 161,000, and then in 2014, it's 256,000. But we've already got our finance officer salary. At first I thought, oh, that's because that's everybody. But I went back and looked in the previous January 27th one where it laid out the people. And that, I'm just wondering if that's the right number.
Sorry, can you just refer to where you're looking again, sorry?
Okay, page 23 in the February 12th, under regular labor, under finance, under the, it says administration, that's in the finance section there. And then I also looked back in the January 27th. I can tell you where that was on page 70, where it lists, there's an accountant controller, there's an accounting clerk, and then
What page you on, sorry, Councilman?
okay, on
23 of 89?
23 of 89 for the first one, and then the detail is back in January 27th on page 70. I'm just curious why we're going from 161 to 256, and at first I thought it was because we had all of the finance staff in one, but then we still have I think our accountant controller's salary is on the line above. I'm just curious about that.
Just bear with me a second.
Yeah. Cause then I went back to page 70 in the January 27th packet, if anybody wants to look at the detail, cause that's, you'll see.
So you're, am I correct in thinking your question is 256?
Yeah, if we go from 161 to 256, and.
Because that will be honouring a current staff agreement.
Oh, that's what it is, so, okay, got it, thank you. Okay, so that's, okay, and then on page 30, I see we're just this ongoing thing with our WCB audit, and I'm wondering, is that going to tail off anytime soon? We're paying like $20,000 a year or so. If you look down middle of the page, 18,000, 19,000, and I realize we're getting all the nice safety policies and all that stuff that we're getting from the consultant.
So it's not just getting all the policies in place, but they actually come in and do 4 days of training to because we have to meet certain legislation requirements from WCB. So rather than sending our crew out to Vernon, Kelowna, wherever, they do a lot of in-house training as well.
Okay. So is this just going to continue on and on?
It is.
I mean, 20,000.
20 grand.
But the other thing, I mean, I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate their expertise, but when you look at what they're giving us, it's pretty much boilerplate, right? It's not like they're, I mean, the safety stuff is the safety stuff, right? I mean, it says the city of Roslyn in there, but, a lot of it is.
Is it WMIS and stuff like that? Like, is it stuff you can do on the computer?
That's a small part of it, but no, and
So
it's
the main part is the training, is the.
No, and it's the ongoing support, so that when we come across issues, we can pick up the phone, you phone them, they give you advice on how to deal with situations.
Do you find $20,000 a year is good value for that? I mean, it's not just
Probably.
your department, it's
But
others, well, it's mostly.
It's
you, I guess,
mainly us,
mostly
it's
you.
mainly
Yeah.
Public Works, but do we get value? It gives us a level of comfort that we are we're trying to keep up on legislation. It's not easy, it's changing all the time. I'm not saying we're getting
Yeah, it
total
looked a little
value.
gravy trainish to me, I'm sorry to say.
Ms. Butler?
I would say that this was an area that we were lacking, for a long period of time. So getting us up to speed is really what's been happening in the past 3 years,
Okay.
Darren, has it
Yep.
been?
Yeah, this is before.
Because we really didn't have anything in place, and to satisfy WCB, we needed to do something.
Right, well, it looked like the big jump up happened in 2011, and before that it was 5,000, it was 8,700, then it was 17, 18, 18, 18,
Yep.
19, 19, 20.
As Lee's taken on a higher role of safety, and she's learning a lot through these processes, so will it be ongoing forever? Maybe not. Maybe not once she has the comfort level that she can implement the year-to-year changes.
So is she considered a safety officer then of the city of Roslyn?
Is Lee considered safe? No. No.
Because generally most corporations now have a safety,
Yeah, health and
specific
safety.
health and safety
We have a
person.
health and safety committee.
Right, but not a person hired.
And not one, no.
And so this technically
That's
takes
right.
the place of a person.
It does.
Okay.
There's lots of contract companies around too, that,
Yes.
like there's even a couple in Roslyn that,
Yeah.
I'm sure if you were looking at what services they offer compared to WCB, but.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
What is the legislation around that, Darren? So you don't have to have a health and safety officer under certain percentage of?
No, you don't have to have an officer, you have to have a committee,
Right, okay.
which, have to meet, I don't know, I think it's for us, because of the size of us, it's bi-monthly. And then, of course, our tailgate meetings weekly, and our safety meetings, monthly, yeah. It's time consuming, We're fortunate enough here that our guys and girls, when there's a safety issue, they bring it up right away. They don't drag it out. So we're lucky that way.
It's a lot of administrative tasks.
It is.
Because you have to be able to prove if something happens, you have to be able to prove that, those people were trained, they, we did go through all the procedures with them.
The salt was in, the sand was put on the sidewalk, so when the guy broke his hip, we could take it, and all those kinds of
Sort
things.
of a cover your, what.
Yeah, okay. Then I had some questions on salaries of things. It looked like I know the union contract, the agreement is 2% by contract, right?
For 2014.
For 2014.
Starting March 1st.
Right. So that's that. But then on the sheet in the January 27th sheet, page 70, which was that other one where it gives the details, it's assuming, there's a little line there that says, assuming a 3% increase of all those, the in-house salaried people. And I'm just curious about that because, now, they aren't union, right? That's on the inside staff, it's not union. But a 3% increase, I'm concerned about just saying, oh, well, we're just gonna do 3% increase because one thing, cost of living is like way under 2, right? So it's not, that you can't justify it on that. And if you don't put some parameters around people's wages and goals and objectives and all of that, you can't just say, oh, you've been here another year, you get 3%. There should be performance criteria. So it bothers me a little bit to have this just in here as sort of like, oh, well, that's what we do, when there's never been any real discussion about it.
There's 3.
I can go.
Yeah, where are
Your worship, both Darren and I, both our contracts speak to 3%.
Right, your
Okay,
contract.
and our contracts do. One of the other contracts is on a performance. So we put that in there, expecting her to reach her goals
Yeah.
and objectives. That appraisal hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so am I reading this thing?
What page you on?
I'm on, well, now I'm back on the January 27 ones. These are the ones, January 27,
and
COW, page 70.
your current CAO also speaks to a 3% increase.
Yes, those do, but you've got, unless I'm not reading this correctly, assuming 3% increase as of January 1, I'm assuming that was going for all of the people that are on that sheet, or was it?
You're only the only people that are exempt from the union
Yeah.
are Darren, myself, and Cynthia.
Okay, well, we've also, then we've got executive assistant, accountant controller, accounting clerk, administration
Those are
clerk,
union
rec.
positions.
Those are union positions.
The only 3 that are exempt from the
Okay.
union are Darren, myself, and Cynthia and Cecilia.
Okay, so this assuming 3% doesn't apply to all the people on this list
No.
that I'm looking at here on page 70.
They would be 2%.
They would be 2%. Okay, I can see where I was confused. And then when I'm looking at some of the things back on the, oh, Lois, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, when I did the old one that you might be referring to, I assumed all of them were the 1st of January, which was incorrect. It's actually their anniversary date, so I've actually gone back and done those calculations
Okay.
again, and they should be reflected in there now. So
Okay.
it's not the 1st of January for all of them.
Okay, so this sheet, the page 7, see, the reason I went back to January 27th is because this particular sheet wasn't in the packet that we got on the February 12th. And I hadn't asked the questions about it, so I went back. So
Okay.
that's why that's confusing. Okay, and then when I looked at some of the others, and I'm not picking on individual people, I'm just looking at the numbers, but I see some of the salaries of ones that ought to be 3% are more than 3% increases, and so I was just sort of curious about that.
Can you be
Do you know where
specific
she-
on that, so that we can be clear?
Yeah,
Page 7 is not
sorry,
there.
Darren.
That's okay.
What page
On
7?
Darren. I'm on page 30 of the February 12th, and that's a portion of the salary. That's a portion, that's like 85% of their salary, that's the
Different
public,
agenda.
the operations manager part goes
Mm.
108 going to 116, and then on
Oh,
the,
here's
the other
February 12th.
segments.
Perfect.
That's the very-
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't follow this
Yeah,
page.
Yeah, I don't know where we are, I'm sorry.
Well,
Bounce
you guys
around.
can't because you
That's
don't
so
have the
tough.
computers. Let's see, on the, well, it's 30, it's page 30 of, on the hard copy, it says there too. I'm on page 30.
30 on the bottom of the pages of what, that we've got.
Yeah, I'm looking, for those on the computer, it's page 30, but it's also page 30 in the, in there.
In the, in here?
No, not that, 'cause that's the old stuff. The updated one is your February 12th COW
yeah.
agenda package,
Yeah.
page 30.
Okay.
So if you can find that. but if you look at the whole salary, I mean, it's awkward, this is awkward talking about salaries. Remember you mentioned that.
Fact of life.
Sorry.
Oh, may I say
Go
that
ahead.
this is, this is in the budget, ultimately what actually, the actuals are actually
Yeah.
what is natural to happen, I mean, it's not, this is just numbers for budget sake, so it's roundabout, and when it actually comes down to, writing a paycheck, the calculations are done specifically, right, and the actuals are going to be according to what actually should be happening.
But if you put in a number for a salary in the year of 2014, and it,
Well, let's hear from the acting CFO for a quick second here.
Okay, so just what I want to say on the calculations of salaries, wages, the whole lot, I've done it based upon the actual, what is actually expected to happen. So everybody is going to earn, the people who are on union are going to earn so much an hour up until first of March. Then I've taken, so how many hours they're actually going to work in that period. Then I've taken from the 1st of March, this is how much they're going to earn, and I've kind of stipulated it out for the year. So it's kind of been done, accurately. It's not just kind of, oh yeah, it's 3%, it's this, and this. I've actually worked it out on hours, days, and I've actually gone to how much, like, our benefits are, contracts, increases for the MSP, or everything on there. So everything should be accurate in terms of the actual wages and salaries.
okay.
These
Okay.
benefits that are rolled in that you.
Can I jump in just for a quick second?
You're the acting mayor.
I know, I'm just,
Oh,
yeah,
is it you?
feel really uncomfortable about that, actually, no. So, but I think what you're getting at, though, is that, without saying it, so I'll just say it, is that if there are increases that are reflected in future years, that we basically, and I think this is just the process, we don't want to be tipping our hand to people saying that we are going to be giving them a raise in the future, based on the fact that we haven't negotiated a contract yet. So we're building that into the budget. Is that what you're?
Yeah, well, that's part of it, but part of it is, I look at these things and say, okay, so if I look at what was, meant to be in 2013, and then I look at what's projected to be in 2014, I would expect those things to kind of be a 3% raise, a 2% raise, whatever it is. And if it's not, then I'm curious as to why. So, and also, I mean, what you're talking about is like, well, we're not tipping our hand if somebody were giving somebody a raise, but it's like, it's not, we haven't discussed any of that, right?
Right.
So, I don't know, it just was, I'm uncomfortable with it. But I appreciate what you're saying, that you're going through and doing it hourly thing, because I'm just looking at, I'm not doing it hourly, I'm just looking at year on year, right? Year on year, if someone's supposed to be getting a 3% raise and you see a different raise, it's like, where did that come from, right? Where did that come from? And speaking of where things came from, I'm curious about the vehicle allowance in Public Works, which started in 2011 and then has gone up. Page 30, kind of in the middle of the Public Works part. Because, and again, this goes back, Darren, I'm not picking on you.
Nope.
But in the copy of contract that I have, which is not the current contract, so I'd like to see the current contract, it said that travel outside the Greater Trail area for the Public Works manager would be compensated according to our travel policy. But this, I don't know, and I think that policy says we pay the same way the province does, which is 52 cents a kilometer or something, right? So if you're looking at a car allowance of, $9,000, that's 17,000 kilometers approximately, right? So I'm curious about this because this doesn't seem to be, I can't imagine you've driven 17,000 kilometers outside of Greater Trail on City of Roslyn business. And, as far as I can tell, the contract doesn't allow a car allowance. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what, Yeah.
So, in previous years, the public works manager used one of the fleet as the truck. And the amount of mileage that he puts on that truck is a lot, because we're not talking out of Rossland, we're talking in Rossland usage. So there came a time where it was more financially feasible for us to not buy another fleet truck. Is that correct, Darren?
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't buy a fleet truck, we bought a truck that now is Darren's truck.
I bought
and
the truck.
He bought the
And
truck.
the city pays me
So
$750
we paid
a
him
month.
to use his truck. So the truck that Darren drives around in all the time is his truck.
Mhm.
And he's responsible for everything on that truck.
Mm-hmm.
And in lieu of that, he gets the allowance.
So it's $750 allowance for you for your own truck,
Yeah,
to use your
correct.
truck.
Yes.
I mean, was there a cost-benefit analysis done on that,
I
that
know.
say
There was.
that it's
Yeah.
better to
Yeah.
There
do
was.
that
It
than
was
this?
cheaper to do that than to buy another truck.
Okay, okay, good. Let's see, what else do I have? Anybody else have things you wanna
I've got
talk
things,
about?
mine are in my binder, cause I didn't go with it.
Okay, well, same thing, there's on page 37, there's a recreation department vehicle allowance, and that one's small, it's like $500, I was just curious what that is for.
That is for, Pam, basically when she's doing her own rec programs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, working as an employee, so she would take her own car, say, to the mountain bike thing around town. Don't think it's ever, has it ever been used?
I don't think she's ever used
I don't even
it.
think we've ever used it, have we?
It wasn't in 2013, it
No.
wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think she's ever
Yeah.
actually
But that
charged
was
us
the
for it,
intent of
but
it, that-
yeah, that was the intent. 'Cause she was using her own truck to
That's in the
haul
budget,
kids'
and that's
bikes and.
by mileage then, for her? Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's in the budget and it
That would be
just goes,
through, yeah, she'd have to submit an expense report.
expense before it goes
That's
to you to
right.
be signed off,
We're
that's fine,
charged it out,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we have?
I had a question about transportation and public works, but I'm still in my binder because I am. So I don't know if I'm, I know I'm a few steps behind, but
Ask and we'll see what we
I will,
can do.
yeah, so it's draft number 5, so I think it's the newest one before this. What draft is that? No, it's the
Draft
same.
number 5 too.
Draft 5, okay. So if you go to, but these don't have page numbers, so.
Oh,
So I'm on just the City of Roslyn 5-year financial plan consolidated page. So it's like,
is that at the very beginning?
yeah, the beginning. And I'm just looking, I was just wondering about, expenses, transportation and public works. And I've probably asked this before. But the year to date for 2013 was 1.3 million, 1.347. You guys with me?
Yeah.
And then it was the budget was 1.5, but it ended up 1.347. And now we're budgeted again
So
for.
this is page 3 of 89 for anybody looking.
Hang on, I haven't even found it yet here, so.
Big number. You'll know the number.
Yep.
It's under expenses, so I'm just wondering, okay, so we spent 1.3, and I know the budget was 1.5, but again, it's that conversation around, the actuals versus budget from the previous year. So it's exactly the same budget, up about, I don't know, $40,000, but still, I'm just wondering why 1.3.7 for this year, or for 2013, and then for 2014, it's 1.585 again.
Okay, I think we have an answer for you,
Okay, good.
CFO.
Yep, you have asked this question before.
Okay, tell me.
So in that first list of questions that
Yeah.
you sent to me,
Yeah,
that was one of the questions. I did an analysis on what the difference was, and
It
it
was labor.
basically boiled down to snow removal.
right.
In terms of, because we've not had the snowfall, that was the major part of
That,
what
right,
was
okay,
missing.
thank you, I apologize. Sorry.
But I'm just trying
Yeah.
to find that sheet, but I have.
Yeah, I've got it in here, it's okay, thanks, Lou.
Meeting dates of
I would
18th of
just
December, it's on the second page.
I was just wondering, So there are points of clarification that people are looking for, and while I appreciate all the points of clarification, we can continue to do that. I would also ask if there are any motions to make changes to the budget. So I would rather, I'm not saying that we shouldn't continue to have clarification points if they're material, but if they're not material, if you could hold those and maybe just get clarification from staff on them, but if you're wanting to make motions to change the budget, and I'm kind of opening that up because I'm just asking the question, do you want to proceed this way or do you want to proceed the way we are now, just looking at clarification issues, or did you want to start to make motions on changes to the budget? Just open that up for general discussion quickly.
Mostly have clarification.
I'm all for decisions and the clarifications, because the clarifications, they can be, I mean, they're pretty good.
And I'm okay with continuing on going through the clarifications. I'm just saying, are there things that are material changes to the budget that people want to bring forward? Councillor Bloom.
So I don't know what page it was on, but, somewhere in here, it says staff appreciation $1,000, and, that struck me as crazy low, because there must at least be, you know, a proper Christmas party or something. I mean, you can't.
That's our $30 food voucher that we get to Furrow Foods every year.
That's it? So what happens for actual staff appreciation, get-togethers, meals and dinners and evenings or?
This year I took everybody in City Hall out for dinner.
Okay.
Out of
There
my
used to be a
You did
Christmas
what?
party. Does public works still do their Christmas party? That would fit in the $1,000.
Yeah, that comes out of,
Like them?
a social club fund. And, in the city would buy some meat trays, say, for $200 or $300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't come out of that
None of
appreciation.
that, no, it comes out of my budget, out of,
Yeah.
Shell.
What about the fall,
Uh,
the barbecue that we used
Yeah,
to
we haven't
have
had that in a
down there? We
while.
haven't had that.
No.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a good point that Jody's bringing up, and, you know, we're always talking about tightening this and tightening that, but I think it's important that, you know, it's like the volunteer recognition that we've never had for the community, right? And we just haven't got around to planning that, but anyway, carry on.
That was another thing I was gonna bring up, is that last year there was $1,000 put down for that, and there's nothing in there for that rate for this year, for the volunteer appreciation bit. But, anyway, still on the topic of, staff appreciation, I mean, I think it's absolutely necessary that, you know, calendar must be part of it, because we are just elected and, you know.
And we're paid so highly as it is.
Yeah.
But, I really think that staff needs to have a proper, budget to do at least, you know, I would say a summer thing and a Christmas thing. I mean, that's just so entirely normal. And, I think it's really important for morale and for staff to, you know, actually speak to each other on normal terms, have the opportunity to do so for us. I mean, it's a.
But a lot of places do that, and you just pay your own way. I mean, that's,
Well, to a degree.
Do their own.
yeah, no, it's pretty common. I mean, maybe not in business, but in government, you know, yeah,
Well,
you pay and you go out and you
Okay, but
enjoy
this
each
is
other.
the corporation of the city of Roslyn that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And it is a workplace, and it's not the staff's fault that they're working for, you know, a non-profit organization, I guess, or municipal organization. I mean, it's still, they're normal
It's their
people like
choice,
everybody
so
else.
it's not their fault,
Yeah,
it's
but
their choice.
Well,
still, it's
this-
the regular relationships and staff environment and all of that needs to apply. Anyway, it wouldn't even take very much money to put something in there, so at least they could have a barbecue in the summertime and a Christmas party in the wintertime. And it wouldn't necessarily have to pay for every last little bit, I mean, but it's still, you know, there needs to be more than $1,000 in there.
To make a motion. Recommendation.
Problem is, I don't know what the number should be.
Well, how many do we have altogether, everybody? In and out?
31,
32. So, say, $30 a head or $40 a head to go out for dinner and a couple of glasses of wine at the Prestige, just an example. so. $1,200.
Is there any type of safety awards or anything for the?
There's not a lot of celebration is what you're saying.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And then celebration is important. I agree.
So there's 31 staff?
31, 32, yeah.
We'll come back to you, Councillor Blumey, and we'll continue on, if we're gonna continue on with looking at clarification, let's do that. If anybody has any more clarification issues to bring up.
I had a clarification issue. I'm still on the getting Washington Street shelf ready from ISL, the $55,000, because we did have that ready to go and applied for grants on the package that we had. Yes, you need to update it because it's a couple of years later, but I did go back and look at what we had paid. You mentioned sidewalks, right? But I went back and looked to see what we had paid for, or what we had planned to pay for. I guess maybe we didn't pay for it, huh? In our planning for Washington and Columbia, and we paid for planning and engineering of roads, drainage, sidewalks, waterworks, and sewer works. And we've paid, I mean, you know, we are up to a lot of money on what we've already paid for this project, and my feeling would be, that we should, I don't think it would take $55,000 to spiff it up to get it grant ready, shelf ready, grant application. We might need that $55,000 if we get the grant, and then to make it construction ready.
Tender ready, yeah.
But to me, spending $55,000 now, when we already had, we've already applied for grants with the same package, you know, I find that one, and maybe you could find some staff appreciation money out of that 55 if we didn't spend it there for ISL. No, but we could, we need to save money.
I know, I understand, but
Right?
that's not a fair
right?
comment.
I'm making a joke.
I know, but it's still not a.
It's okay, you can say you
You're
didn't
out
get
of
my joke.
order, so why don't you
All
just,
right.
can you just?
But, so I would say that I would get, you know, take that 55,000 out, and that's on the, page of 70 of our additional capital expenditures. These were the new things that were added in. I think it's there, wait, maybe it isn't there.
Councillor
What
Thatcher?
kind of work,
70.
through you to Darren, what kind of work has to be done to make it shelf ready?
Well, the detail really hasn't been done, as I explained. I know we still have issues with how we're gonna get, foot traffic going up Washington. That still has not gone to design yet, because we're unsure of, and ISL's unsure of what's gonna be the best solution, especially up on the corner of, Fluman Way.
From 4th Avenue up where there's no sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, with
So-
council, maybe I can go back to ISL, maybe I ask them to go too far, because maybe I asked them to go for tender ready. Maybe I should just ask them for, you know, shelf ready project,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
then we don't need the details
do it
put in
now.
there.
I mean, we had in our plan, our 2011, 2015 plan, we had $104,000 in there for design, and these design numbers, when you add them up, do correspond to what we now say we paid them. So I'm like, I just think there ought to be some way we can cut some of that back. And we did put in a grant application on this same package before. Spiffing is one thing, but I think we can spiff for less than 55,000.
But that might have been tender ready to provide, assuming that, you know, we got the grant, so.
Okay,
Let me just clarify that.
okay, that'd be great.
So there is still quite a bit of, there is some detail work that has to be done
Needs
that,
to be done before it's tender ready, for
but
sure.
not necessarily the piping and the road work,
Right.
just the details.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's always work to do
Yeah.
after, you get the
Exactly.
grant first,
Exactly.
before we start throwing more and more money at this thing that we've already put in a huge amount of money to. Let's get the grants, and then we go and get it ready, because otherwise we're gonna have to do it again. Because we spend 55,000, get this, if that really is shelf ready, we don't get any grants, we wait another 3 years, then it's another bunch, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
at some point, you know, we'll have to.
Yep.
And while we're on the Washington, upgrade, So everything is like 20 and 30% on the, I'm like right at the end of the package, right? Where the, Class D capital cost estimates. And then there's, you know, yellow highlighter and First Avenue, Spokane to Washington. That's obviously some pipe stuff, but like it's all upgraded. It says 20% more, 30% more, and there's penciled in numbers.
So, I can answer that.
Can you-
With,
30%.
with the work that the engineering company, I'm just trying to find it here.
Sorry.
You got it.
Page
It's
1
in
of
the-
16.
That CTQ had
Yeah.
performed, so they went all the way up to 2016. And, the numbers, the, unit rates that I've got, that I've received from both, couple of contractors and ISL. So unit rates just meaning there's so much per lineal meter of this size water pipe, this size sewer pipe. So when I do the estimation, the estimates on the cost, those are the rough costs that I come up with today's rates. So I want it
On
to
the
be as
linear
accurate,
kinda, yeah.
that's right,
Okay.
as accurate as we possibly can.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that was, CTQ was done in 2010, wasn't it? So we're already.
29 or 2010,
Yeah, so it's just
2010.
updating it to what it would cost now. right?
Yeah, no, I know, but 30% higher, 20% higher.
That's 'cause they're planned out in 2016 also, right? Some of
Yeah,
those things.
some of them.
So he's projecting what it'll cost us when it's on the plan, 'cause those things aren't for this year.
Out to 2016.
Mm-hmm.
as close as
Some
we
of
can
them.
get.
Okay, but even at 2014, right?
Yep,
It's 20% higher, 30% higher, right? Like the numbers have changed from 140,000 to 168,000, from 82 to 99, right?
Yep.
So.
But Jill, I don't think those weren't being done in 2014 necessarily, were they? I don't have that
No,
in front of me.
no,
But
they're
those
not.
are the
They're put out,
costs
they're-
at 2014 rates, right, Darren? Which means that they.
well, no, in CTQ's, what they had done for us, they had them being done in 2014. We know that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So in order to put it in the 5-year, I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
because they could be done in 2016, 17. So those are the
So you-
estimated
yeah.
costs.
For the 2014,
No,
No,
they're
no,
not.
it won't be done in 2014.
no, I understand that, but why are those numbers in 2014 changed then?
Because it is 2014 rates.
Right.
You put them up. Like
Yeah,
on
I
this
get
sheet
it.
on page 70, the additional capital expenditure request, it would have been helpful to me to have the year that they were gonna be planned to do. I know they're on the other sheet.
Yep.
But when you
Yeah.
look at these were all those new things that were added,
Yeah.
they all, at the time, they all said new at the bottom, right?
Mhm.
There's that other sheet, which is page 67. If you look at page 67, Jill, it may
Yeah, I
make
got
sense.
it.
They all, see how many are out, way out into the future?
Yeah,
So even though CTQ said, oh, we ought to do this in 2013 or 2014, we didn't. Some of those things are pushed out to 2015, 2016.
So if we could make just a recommendation rather than, we're kind of talking about this a lot. If we could make a recommendation that staff, look at having what it would cost brought back to us based on making a submission for grant opportunities rather than, shelf-ready engineering and all that kind of stuff. I think that's what you're looking for, right?
Mhm.
So if we can, that can be in the minutes somehow.
And you're referring to the Washington Street shelf ready?
Yeah,
Yeah,
shelf-ready, but
55.
shelf-ready in terms of.
Shelf ready for grant,
For
not
grant.
shelf ready for tender.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if it's clear there, then Darren has some direction to look at that, and then that 55 is gonna drop. Next.
That's good.
Seconder.
Oh, we have to make, you wanna make that as a recommendation?
Well,
Yeah.
you're making the recommendation, or?
We made the recommendation, I thought,
Yeah.
Councilor Moore was making the
Yeah,
recommendation.
no, I'm fine with that, yeah, I was not being as formal because I thought Darren got the
Well, I just
the
wanted to be in
message.
the
No,
minutes,
that's good,
yeah.
yeah, have it in the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so another one I had, looking at page.
Oh, all in favor? Sorry.
Sleeping on it.
Yeah.
I was looking at, this is the page 81, the Roswell Curling Association South Door requirement, the letter from Perry talking about, this was when we were looking at that to see could we use that door only as a emergency exit therefore saving ourselves $65,000 to rebuild it so it doesn't shed and drop snow on
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
And talk about using the doors, the other doors at the other end. And this is his response to that. But I think one of the points that is worth making is that we weren't removing the doors, we were just redesignating them as emergency exit instead of primary exit. So I think the net result is people have to walk a little farther to get to the curling stuff. I actually wanted to go, I was gonna see if I could go up and see what it actually looks like, because I don't have a clear picture of how to walk from that other door into the curling or how awful that would be. But, I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure this letter actually answers that question. Can we turn it into, not that we're doing away with it, that we're just redesignating an emergency door instead of primary? Save ourselves $65,000.
In my discussions with Perry, remembering that the snow will slide off that roof
Mhm.
and cover those doors.
Mhm. Well,
So-
it still need to be shoveled, right?
You know, you won't be shoveling it because
No.
it'll be, it'll be 3 meters high when it
Oh.
lets go.
Oh.
So it's not a matter of we're talking a whack of snow.
Mhm.
So in that case, what he's saying is those doors are now blocked and your egress is not available at that
Mm.
time. And that definitely that scenario can happen, and it does happen. I'm sure if we went up there right now with the warm weather today,
Mhm.
that snow probably all slid into there now.
So how has it been handled? Because we've had that new roof up there now
Yeah,
a
so
couple of years.
it comes and it piles up against the stairwell that comes up to a platform up here.
Mhm.
Tim knows well
Yep.
about, so what happens is that snow will come down and take out the railing and actually come right across the top,
Mhm.
deck.
So that's been happening.
That's been happening
It's
for
actually
years.
knocked a couple people, this
Yeah.
happened already.
So, just for clarification though,
Yeah.
we're talking about having a line item in the budget for 65,000, but anything over 25,000 still has to come back to council, right? We still just automatically gets approved, so if we go out, I'm never gonna see what an actual design looks like for this project. Is that the way this works? Just for clarification.
I'm not sure what you mean.
So you're gonna build this thing at the arena.
I've already got a design for it. I've
You
got
got it.
a
You got it.
cost of doing, that's how, it's the only way I can get a cost.
Right, you got a call, did you get, I mean, just asking the question,
Yeah.
we got 3 bids on doing something?
No, this is just engineering estimates.
Just from one engineer
That's
estimate,
correct.
and it hasn't gone out to tender yet?
No.
As a project, obviously, or we haven't even asked?
No.
Right, okay.
No.
And yes, that would be coming to council.
And that's my point, is that although it's budgeted at 65, it comes to council based on our
The tender documents
Mhm.
would,
our policy. We look at it, we decide, okay,
yeah.
okay. All right, I'm okay with that.
Although we do have a thing, once it's approved in the financial plan,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of things that don't come back to council, right?
Yeah, I'm not so sure they come back to council.
Yeah.
Once it's been approved in the budget, then it gives me approval to go ahead and get it done.
Mhm.
I would tell you that it will be coming back to council.
I would
We
like to.
haven't in the past.
Mhm.
I know that
Yeah.
it hasn't in the past, but in this particular instance, I've been up there and looked at it, and I haven't had specific questions around it, and I've done just looking at it. I would prefer to see the engineered drawings, just because for $65,000, I can build a 40 by 40 garage. I mean, just saying, I think that it's pretty rich, but I don't mind it being in the budget, but I'd prefer to see it come back, with those engineered drawings so we can look at it.
But I mean, we are gonna get current, contract rates too, right? So when it does go to tender, the 65 might be, an estimate from the engineer, but today's rates of, the contractors, it might be 40,000 or 30,000 or 80,000.
No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that if I see those engineered drawings, then I have a better understanding of why.
What it's gonna look like?
What it's, not just what it's gonna, I don't mind just functionality, how is there another way to look at it?
Sure.
Because I've dealt with engineers before and built the stuff that was overbuilt. anyway,
Yeah.
just that point, it would be nice in this particular instance to see that. It's a big dollar item, it's not just a simple thing.
And Your Worship, I would, suggest to you that what past practice, has been will not be current practice.
Councillor Moore?
Well, also, I mean, we have talked for this entire year about the need to change our procurement policy, and that's been one of the things that's on the list that's going to be done, and we've gotten some recent advice on things that we need to do that, and I think more information coming to council is, we're hearing that message loud and clear, so hopefully this will all happen. But it has been, that's the whole thing of, you not wanting to just blanket approve things in the budget and then never see them again, right? So, anyway, okay, so that's good. On page 88, we had the park discussion of parks, and this was the park maintenance, and I'm just wondering, is there these are the expenses to help us understand how much it costs us to maintain the park, but do you have anything that sort of tells us kind of the parks capital stuff? Is there parks capital expenditures that wouldn't be reflected here? So, because when we're looking at, if we want the full picture of the parks, we need to know maintenance as well as capital. I don't know, I mean, I don't think we're gonna do anything about
You mean the
parks.
past capital or?
Well,
future?
yeah, I mean, if we had, I mean, the whole point of this sheet was for us to look at the parks and with a bit of a critical eye and see, okay, so are there parks we could do without, are there parks that are costing us too much? I think based on the maintenance element of this, I don't think we wanted to go after any of the parks, but then you start to look at it and you say, well, okay, what might you be needing to do in a capital way to any of these parks, which might make a difference to us about how much we want to invest in all the parks. So my question was, where's the park capital outlay to do the other half of this history of parks? Does that make sense?
Have we had, I'm just want to check I'm looking at the right numbers. Cook Avenue Park upgrade and Nichols Way Park upgrade. Those are the only two ones I can see with the benefit on that.
Okay.
For past, but future, yeah, there's definitely some huge upgrades that need to be done to some parks.
Yeah, so that would be a good thing for us to have as part of the parks discussion. But
those are, you know, items that may not even have to fall in the 5-year, they might be in the 15-year.
Okay.
So they're not budgeted for as of yet?
They're not budgeted in
So if they're
here.
not, then
Okay.
they're not a topic for discussion.
Okay.
Good, next.
Just for background though, in 2011 we spent 10,000 on capital, 2012 we spent 20,000 on capital and parks.
Parks, okay.
But
That's good to know.
But what the CFO is saying in the prepared document is that there's nothing in the 5-year plan for capital for parks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Parks.
No one is saying that.
Councillor Spear? Sorry.
Yeah, so I had asked, for this, chart and I appreciate the numbers. I sort of went, oh, well, they're not as expensive as they look when they're all bundled in with facilities and, right? So obviously you just deduct that the facilities are what the bigger costs are.
Yep.
So that was good, so that helped me. I just wanted to ask you again, Darren, about Jubilee Park, because we've had the discussion at council that the school board uses Jubilee Park for the only Rawson school. And have you had, you know, my inclination, honestly, you know, I mean, it's 20,000, 13,000, 14,000, 20% of the actual allocation for each park. And if we could get rid of that cost, why wouldn't we? 14,000 and 15,000 could go somewhere else. So I would, do you want a recommendation from council?
Did we not already have one, Trish, where you and I were to meet with the school
It was
district?
informal, I think, but I don't
No,
know.
it was a real recommendation.
Yeah.
I
Was it?
have,
Okay.
I have
Mhm.
contacted
Okay.
SD20, and I'm talking to them right now, but they,
And if you tell them we're not gonna
Not
maintain
going
it
back to me.
anymore, so you might wanna approach it, you approach it however you think professionally, but, you know, if you said that council is leaning towards, not maintaining that park anymore, what would you like to do as it being the school park?
Your worship, it's.
That's the approach I take, but obviously,
Your worship, it's a bit of a tough one, because we are still using their facilities for recreation programs in the gym. We're using them a lot.
in the RSS gym?
Yeah.
And it's,
Okay,
and
That's
as you
the
know,
trade-off.
RSS is used mainly for soccer as
Yeah,
well, so.
which is
we're
community.
using, yes.
right,
So,
okay.
I think our goal, if anything, was to get
50%.
them to help chip in for the maintenance of it, not to take over the full cost.
Okay, so chip in as in 50% of the
That's
cost?
possible, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Anyway, the parks don't seem to be the problem when I look at the big picture of facilities and parks. It seems to be, as I just said, that facilities are the ones that are the cost-heavy ones, that we need to have some more serious discussion about, and I think I missed that part at the beginning of this meeting, so.
Councillor Thatcher?
No, I was just, you look at that Pioneer Park, it's such a small park, 10,000, almost 11,000. Was that just for the power, to run the pumps, or, because it's such a small park?
Flowers.
No, it was the pond, we had to rebuild the pond this year,
Oh,
I think,
okay.
without looking at it, but the pond's high maintenance.
And just means, and power, I guess, to run it?
Power's not bad, no.
No, because it
No,
seems to be pretty,
No.
11 grand for that park, it seems,
we spent a lot of time there.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And vandalism is very high there
Yeah,
because.
I guess, yeah.
Just to clarify on the parks, what we did there, we just came up with the total cost of the park maintenance, and then we just split the cost as a percentage
okay.
based upon how much we thought, how much time.
Councillor Moore?
Yes, I had a question, this kind of answers it though. I was curious about the Cook Avenue where there was the vandalism that was going to require some, additional repairs, right?
Mhm.
And I was wondering that it didn't appear to be reflected there, but maybe that's because you just took the overall park number and allocated as opposed to specific. Do you have specific numbers on what did that get repaired before the snow fell?
Like 70%?
70%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Centennial too, right? That wasn't just Cook, that was
Right,
Centennial.
two.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I was
Oh, I
just
have
curious
one
what
question.
those costs were for fixing that vandalism
Roughly in the ballpark of 6,000.
for the two of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Skern? No?
Yeah, no, I was just looking at the bottom line on the parks also, and the budget for 2013 was 110,000, but now it's set down to 71,000, which is more in line with the actuals for this year, for 2013.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. That's quite a significant difference from the 2013 budget to 2014, $40,000, right? So that's good.
Okay, did you have,
No, I think I'm good.
good? Councillor Blooming?
Okay, I'm just gonna put forward a motion that we put, $5,000 in staff appreciation, and then I'll speak to it next in a second first.
There's a motion. Would anybody like to second it?
What did you whisper after that?
Sorry, I thought I would like to speak to it.
Okay.
But I needed a seconder first.
Well, I'll second it, get on the floor.
Councillor Blooming?
Thank you. So, you know, I have always just assumed that something was going on and I just didn't hear about it. That there were, you know, staff appreciation get-togethers that I just wasn't hearing about. I fully took for granted that that's just what happens because that is so completely normal for a workplace to have in place. You know, I can be really cheap, and sitting here, doing this job, I can be really cheap sometimes. But I think that we really have to watch what we're nickel and diming, and, you know, I don't think this is an appropriate place because, you know, we're dealing with the people who have daily contact and daily, you know, I don't know, access to or daily control, I guess, of the efficiencies of the city of Roslyn. And to have them enjoy where they're working and have camaraderie with the people they work with and have, you know, a positive attitude towards their job, that is going to improve the daily efficiencies of this corporation, right? I mean, I don't know, it seems like it is easily justified in a small scale. That's such a tiny, tiny percentage of this overall budget, And it can have quite an effect on morale, I would think, to have, you know, better relationships and better sense of being appreciated working here. So, I would think that actually those numbers, the $5,000, that is a fairly slim number actually for my estimates, if there's going to be something at Christmas time and a barbecue or something like that in the summertime, and with a view to be able to include partners. And then, I don't know, you know, at least in the summertime, perhaps also children. I'm not sure, that would be up to staff to decide what they want to do for it. But when I was, you know, doing my very rough estimates of what that would cost, and I went slim, but this is at least a start to hopefully get the ball rolling and some kind of tradition like that.
Councillor Sperry?
Just second it, actually. I concur with your comments. And I've always thought actually is, you know, that, you know, you mentioned it doesn't matter about council, and this isn't about council, but that barbecue that was in the fall, right, Darren? In the fall, September, was a coming together of staff and council. And, you know, one of the things that I know is that we don't have that interface or that interaction, particularly with Public Works, right? Like, I think I know them all, but I don't know them all. Mm-hmm. And unless you have some kind of social activity where you come together and become a thorough community, a team, I think that we're doing our community, we're not doing our community the service that we should be doing as a team. So I'm in favor of increasing that. I'm not sure if I'm in favor of increasing it to $5,000, so I'll let other councillors speak to that. But I really think it's important to celebrate. It's a tough, I mean, people get paid, and some, you know, get paid well. And so that's part of your compensation for the job you do, but it's not an easy job working in government, and especially in small government. So I'd be willing to up that amount of money, so there could be a couple of celebrations a year for sure. And as I said, I'll decide on whether I'll vote yea or nay on that amount after the other councillors have spoken.
Councillor Thatcher.
Well, I think worker morale and camaraderie is a great thing. $5,000 seems maybe a little out of line, but I'd be willing to vote for it if that included some type of safety program, safety award program. You know, because if we get our workers to work safe, you know, it could decrease WCB costs. It could decrease injury time cost to the city. I think that'd be well worth looking at, because I think that the safety of the workers is paramount to anything. And if they can work safe through the year, every year, a little bonus or a little safety award, I think it goes a long ways to showing how much they've helped the city, you know. And working safe all year, I think it's worth some type of small reward. And I think if we raised it to $5,000, I'd like to see that included in that amount. But
Councillor Moore?
I'm curious, how many unsafe work claims do we have in the city? How often do we have somebody out on a medical?
From a work safe injury?
Yeah, work safe. I mean, appreciate the intent.
That, I would say time loss is, minimal. Like, I don't think we'd have one a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the idea of some recognition. I'm not sure if safety is the right one. You sort of have to find a problem and then address that problem. If we have safe workers anyway, maybe having a work safe award isn't the one, but maybe there's something else, you know, leadership.
Your Worship, I'm not sure if council wants to consider that, you know, if we had a budget like this, that perhaps we could just have an award ceremony where we have some, you know, a safety award, and perhaps a health and awareness award, and a long service award. So during our staff appreciation, we could give out 5 or 6 awards and pick out those few individuals. you know, volunteer award for, you know, those employees that spend the time at Winter Carnival, or, so we'd have a few key awards that we would hand out every year. And they don't have to be all safety or all volunteer or all health and wellness, but, you know, make it a bit.
I like that idea.
Variety.
That's a good idea. The other thing I was gonna say, and I'm gonna sound like a killjoy, but, working in government, the stats indicate wages are basically 12% higher than private sector. Benefits are extremely generous. I mean, these are good jobs to get, right? Now, that doesn't address the morale issue, which is what your thing would be, but in terms of, you know, there is a certain amount of, benefit of working here. They're good jobs, and I mean, I know people say, oh, it's terrible, this is terrible, that. It's like, I don't actually think it's all that terrible, you know. It's like, people seem to be, you know, we have a lot of people who stay a long time and seem to be very happy here, so, you know. But that said, it is nice to have some kind of camaraderie. There's other ways to do it. I mean, there's lots of organizations that have potlucks, and they get their groups of employees together and do things together socially because they want to do that without, you know, spending a lot of money, but it's just another idea.
Councillor Blooming.
Okay, so I think the important aspect, would be the appreciation part of it, you know, staff appreciation. And so if you're paying for it, it's not the same kind of, you know, appreciation feel, right? And the other one is, well, the publicly funded bit is, my dad consults for prisons, and even they have their, you know, their staff parties, and those are publicly funded, right? I mean, it's a different public fund, but that's grim.
Check out our windows?
Yeah, so the aspect being the appreciation being very important, but also, you know, the ultimate goal is that it would be not a benefit to the people working at the job, but a benefit to the productivity of the company, like the, you know, general moving forward momentum and all that. So, I think it's well justified, and I don't think that it can really be replaced by, you know, door entry or potluck in this case. You know, those aren't bad ideas to have, but not in place of this.
Are there any other comments?
Nothing worse than having to cook to go to your own party. Come on, I'm sorry. I like the concept of potluck, but not for your own party. That's not appreciation.
Well, you could do other things.
I know, I'm just, okay, let's do a vote or something on here.
I actually would make one comment. No, you know, I don't disagree with, well, you know what, instead of saying it that way, let me just say it as plainly as I can. I think in the spirit of what we're going through in the budget, increasing it to $5,000 is irresponsible. I think a different idea could be increase it by $1,000 and say, here's $1,000 towards a staff-driven party, and if the staff has a social fund that they want to add some money to, then the city's sharing in that. I just don't think we can go to the citizens of Rossland, and because it becomes symbolic at that point. It's not the fact that we've said the staff are worth it. They are. We can say it 6 ways from Sunday, but now we have to go back to the community and say, oh yeah, we're increasing your taxes this year. And oh yeah, by the way, we decided to give $5,000 for staff appreciation. I could just see how that headline gets written. And for me personally, I think all the comments are valid, but I won't be voting in favor of this motion. Councillor Blooming.
I don't see that as being the, I mean, they're going to say, you know, your taxes are increased by this much, and oh, by the way, there was $4,000 put into this one line item. I don't know that that's very likely, and also that I believe that this decision is a responsible one for, you know, if we're in charge of allocating funds to a workplace. There's also, well, we're taking away more than $4,000 from so many other items that you know, it is a pretty incidental amount, that extra $4,000, I believe.
Councillor Moore?
I think we're still looking at a close to a 7% increase though, regardless of what, we haven't taken all that much out compared to what we have to do, the 7% increase, and that's before we get to regional district, right?
Mhm.
So I actually agree with what Councillor Fisher's saying. I would like to do something, and maybe doubling it would be appropriate to do $2,000 instead of $1,000 and let it be a staff initiative.
Councillor Spear?
Yeah, I feel likewise, and that's, you know, I was kinda gonna vote against the 5,000 and say, well, we could, you know, double it. It's not a lot of money, but it is symbolic, as you said. I know that all the workplace stuff that I do, we pay into it ourselves, and there's social funds and all that, and I'm sure the city has those. I think to jump from 1,000 to 5,000 is not really right at this point in time with what we're doing with budget. And so I will vote against it, and then we can make another motion.
Okay.
If it's defeated, sorry.
Are there any other comments? Okay, those in favor? Opposed? Defeated? Does anybody like to make another motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we increase the $1,000 to $2,000 in the spirit of appreciation, and hopefully we can at least have some hot dogs and burgers down at the park, and staff can figure out, like, the $30, anyway, sorry, that's my motion.
Okay.
I'll talk to you.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay.
I want the hot dogs in that
Okay,
recommendation.
we beat this
though.
up pretty good.
Yeah, I just wanna
Anybody-
say one thing.
Okay.
One more thing, I know it's hilarious, that we, the $30 voucher thing, maybe staff can reconfigure that so they get a party rather than giving each person a $30 voucher, but it's up to them, I guess, to decide, but anyway.
Before we vote, yes?
If $30 was it's historically been the gift from council.
Oh.
Right?
We didn't even know
So
about
if you
it.
want to, it used to be everybody
Turkey.
got a turkey,
Yeah.
but now it's the voucher. So if council wants to end the turkey voucher or the voucher,
Oh, no, then.
and leave us with that budget, then I would prefer a recommendation, because we still give vouchers to retirees. We don't add
we talked about
retirees
that
anymore.
before.
Yeah, we don't add retirees anymore. We're letting attrition look after that. But there are still, I don't know, 12 maybe on that list.
What is that? I'm sorry. Okay, let's maybe vote on this motion. Oh, wait, it's part of the motion.
I'm just gonna call the
Call the question.
Call the question. Can you read that? I guess it doesn't matter, it's $2,000.
Does that include the voucher thing, or not?
It can't, right?
So the $30 voucher is separate, that's the gift, and then $2,000 for appreciation.
So there's $1,000 for a party. Right now, as it is, there's $1,000 for that, whatever it's
But the,
and there's $1,000 for a party.
so does the $1,000 cover the vouchers?
No, your worship, we're looking at this and it's looking like the $1,800.
Yeah.
Per voucher?
I need to go pull the turkey list.
Something's not adding up here.
Something's not adding up, yeah.
Yeah,
Give
it's
me
like,
turkey
well,
to
there must be more
retirees, I'm
retirees or
sorry.
something, 'cause that's like 42 people times 30.
I'm thinking there's.
Oh, put those 1,200,
What else?
1,300,
$1,500.
yeah, it's about $1,459.
Yeah, it's 1260.
No, 60 is too many.
Oh, we're down to the details.
Hmm.
Turkey. Anyway.
I mean, if
So
you
did the
wanted-
was the $1,000 for the $30 vouchers? That's my question.
I don't even know where the $1,000 come from, because in the budget I've got 1,500 for staff appreciation, so I don't know where the 1,000.
Jody, where are you looking? What page are you on?
I saw, it's here.
Page 30.
Yeah.
Page 30?
Yep.
My favorite page.
$1,000. It's the staff appreciation.
Yeah.
And
So
goes
year to
across.
date was almost 1,500.
But 1,414.
Yeah.
It was what?
Oh, you've got.
Yeah,
public
staff
works, you're working
appreciation.
public works. Okay, we've got public works administration staff appreciation, and we've also got it in the general government staff appreciation. That's
Oh.
why. the
Oh,
staff
so it's in
appreciation.
So it's two places.
already
So
there.
the staff appreciation
$3,000.
in
Yeah.
the wages and benefits, which will be near the top, which I'm thinking will be the turkey dollars. Although there is a question about 2013, I'll have to check that. So you're in the public works.
So where do I need to be?
We're in Public Works.
Where's the
looking
other
at
one,
the-
though?
That's
The-
page 30, the other one. I think this
So,
was
until we
before
get clarification,
Yeah,
can we
let's get-
defeat this motion,
Yeah.
or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to vote on the motion and then we'll get clarification, can we please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor? 0. Opposed? Everyone, thank you. Until we get clarification
Those
on
are
this.
potties down
Thank
there.
you.
And we don't need a
No.
recommendation for clarification, you guys will just come back to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us the
We're done.
total number that we're,
Does anybody have anything else regarding the budget or motions that they wanna make regarding the budget?
no, I had a couple things.
Is there anything
Very
from-
end, just one second, okay?
I'm gonna, while you're looking, I'm gonna ask the staff, is there anything that they wanna bring up regarding the budget? I'm gonna throw something at you.
Yes.
CFO.
So one of the items that I was supposed to look at was the gas tax fund. So I've been speaking to the UBTM regarding the gas tax fund
1,500 plus
and
1,000,
what
so it's
items we
2,500.
can potentially fund with that money. We currently have a balance of about 460,000 that we have there for funding available. It would have to fund anything that reduces greenhouse gases or is cleaner water or generally promoting people not to get in their cars and take a walk instead. So we do have the option to put that money towards funding the Columbia Washington. So I don't have to report on that till July, but we could potentially fund part of it in 2013. What that would mean though is that it would just release those funds, rather than depleting our reserves by, was it $1 million, we could just keep that 460,000 in our reserves. So just in terms of the gas tax fund, in terms of it's more of a 2013, I'm kind of suggesting that we could report it, the fact it funds Columbia Washington, it releases that and we don't deplete our reserves quite as much. So it's more of a 2013 item, but it also reflects in terms of we've got money
214,
available for the 2014.
More money.
Yeah, more money. in
by
our reserves.
$460,000.
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
Wait.
it does qualify, Columbia, Washington, the work we did of making it more pedestrian friendly downtown, is that what we're after, or you?
We need to do some work on it in terms of would have to go through and identify those items. For example, the lighting, it's gone to LED.
Mhm.
So we'll have to go and identify the exact cost on that. Same for anything where we've widened the walkways, that would qualify because we're making it more accessible for people to actually walk down the high street rather than go in the car.
Additional furniture for
Bike
people
rack.
to sit, and bike racks for them to bring their
Oh,
bike.
the water lines themselves.
Yeah,
are
the water,
yeah,
the
a
pipe.
cost item.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
so-
I kind of don't really have too much concerns that we
Yeah.
can't find 460,000 out of that.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a recommendation then to move forward with the investigation of this, or to see if it qualifies, or just a straight recommendation that says go for it?
Or just go for it.
What's
I
your-
was kind of more just kind of informing you in terms
Yeah.
of that's where I've kind of got to in my investigation with the gas tax funds. I mean, if you want to kind of make that recommendation and I can proceed with that, that's fine with me.
I mean, the other thing we use it for are, there were a lot of the, greenhouse gas reduction items for the buildings, right, from the facilities audit. I don't know if any of those did we contemplate any of those?
Not yet.
No, we have. So there were those things for the trail.
But
Well-
sorry.
So from my point of view, my thought of trail was that if we go for the Columbia Washington, we can easily identify items and we can basically release that money to go into our reserves. Whereas if we start looking for individual items like that,
Yeah,
you
lot
start
more.
picking here, pick there, pick
Yeah.
there, to start going down that road, you've suddenly got 20,000 here, 80,000 there. I just think it would be easier to go for the Columbia Washington just from, you know, a paperwork point of view.
Well, would the appropriate thing be for you just to give us a recommendation, a staff recommendation about how we allocate the gas fund this year? Or,
Yeah.
I mean,
So where would it go?
because you have to do a report to the government, right? So
Yes.
you have to have a good
That's not due until July.
paper trail of what you recommended, what we agreed to, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what the best way to
We
say it.
should, Your Worship, we should do a staff report, bring it to a regular meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there, you've got direction.
Okay.
You gave us direction to give you direction. and we did it decisively.
Turn left, turn left, turn left.
Unless it's the appropriate way.
Does anybody have anything else? Because I'm going to adjourn this thing.
Go for it.
Adjourn.
We had a
Bing.
long night last night.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. My phone rang at 3:30 in the morning.
I do bar mitzvahs too.
Full service.
Okay.
Was that your drawing? That's your engineer drawing? That says 65,000.
Oh, Darren.
Give me a second.
Tracy, there's some numbers from ISL that had been their invoice box that
So
Darren
this
had
is-
given to you to put in